Hey guys, I'm back with another book talk, and I want to start off this video by saying I am so sorry that I look so gross right now. We here in Texas have had so much ice and snow for the past couple days. I really haven't left my house, therefore I haven't had to actually look presentable. So I actually put on makeup to film this, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, this book talk goes along with the last book talk I posted since I'm finishing up the series. Super excited. That book is going to be Rules of Attraction by Simone Elkeles. I think that's how you say her last name. This is the second book in the Perfect Chemistry trilogy. And if you haven't read the first book or you don't know anything about this book in general or the series, because I hadn't heard anything about it, I bought Perfect Chemistry like 2 years ago, half-price books, and it was sitting on my shelf till I finally picked it up from my TBR jar. Basically, this series follows the Fuentes brothers. There are 3 of them. They're all different ages. The first book, Perfect Chemistry, follows the oldest brother, Alex. This one follows the middle brother, Carlos, and the third and final book follows the youngest brother, Luis. Now, I will link my Perfect Chemistry book talk in my pants so you can go watch it and see how I thought about that book and whatnot. It's an interesting series, to say the least. Now for this series, I did like this book a little bit more than Perfect Chemistry, and I think partially that is because of Carlos. I know Alex and Carlos are kind of similar since they both have that, you know, little snarky attitude and are just big pains in the butts, basically. But I really liked Carlos a lot more. I found him a lot funnier. And I don't know why. I just really liked Carlos a lot more than Alex, although I did really like Alex too. I think Carlos so far is my favorite brother. The writing in this book was slightly better than the first, although it was still a little cringeworthy at certain parts for me. It felt like, again, I know I said this in Perfect Chemistry, I feel like it should have gone through a little bit more editing and maybe a little bit more of rewriting in certain areas, because I felt like it was being written by a younger person, and I felt kind of like, I don't know if any of you guys like read this, but I used to read a lot of fan fiction back when I was a huge directioner, and I felt like I was reading one of those fan fictions written by like a 13-year-old that, you know, they had the right idea for the story, but the writing wasn't caught up with where they were thinking. And I felt like there were certain points in the book where it was very, like, not quite developed writing, I want to say, and so I was like, kind of like, nah. But, again, I really did enjoy the story. I think the characters and the storyline kept me reading even though the writing wasn't that great. I really did like this story. However, I did find this book a little predictable at certain parts, because as we know, in Perfect Chemistry, Alex was in the gang, the Latino blood gang, and this book starts off with Carlos moving in with Alex up in Colorado, and Carlos was part of a gang back in Mexico, and now he's gotten in trouble with drugs, and Alex was in trouble with drugs too in the first book, and that's how he ended up getting shot. And I just felt like there was a lot of parallels, and kind of like you could see it was going that way. The mention of when Carlos first went to Madison's party and was introduced to Nick, who's the drug dealer. You should have just seen that coming, that he was going to end up getting involved in drugs, which again led to a shootout that happened once again in Perfect Chemistry, and both of the brothers ended up being shot in these shootouts of dealing with drugs. So I feel like it was kind of like repeating itself in like those chain of events, although I really did like Carlos and Kiara. Is it Kiara or Kiara? I'm not sure how you say her name. I really liked them, their relationship. Their relationship was really nice, and I liked that the characters in this book were not as like perfect as they were in Perfect Chemistry. I mean, I understand Carlos is really full of himself and he thinks he's a good-looking guy, just like Alex was, and Kiara, yes, she's very pretty, but she downplays it. She doesn't like dress it up like Brittany did, where she had to be, you know, kind of like the center of attention. She had to look good all the time because, you know, she was queen bee of the school. Kiara downplays it. She wears giant t-shirts with shorts. She goes hiking. She wears her hiking boots everywhere. She wears her hair up in a ponytail, just like I am now. and she just downplayed it. And I really like that. And I like how she also had the stutter issue that she had recently gotten over. But, you know, you can tell, like, she really likes Carlos because whenever she's around him, she, like, loses her train of thought and she starts stuttering. And he thinks it's cute and he doesn't make fun of her for it. And I just really love it. And I think they were really adorable together. And even when he started pushing her away, I was still like, no, don't push her away. You need her. And I just all around really loved him. And besides them two, I think my favorite character in this book, besides Carlos, I really did like Carlos, would have to be Kiara's best friend Tuck, the gay best friend. Oh my gosh, he is so adorable and he's so funny. And I think the Carlos and Tuck scenes where they're going back and forth at each other are probably some of my favorite scenes because they just play so well off of each other, and Tuck is just so funny. And I love him, and he's probably one of my favorite side characters ever. Like, I don't know why, I just loved him so much. Also, I like that in this book we got to see more of Alex and Brittany and see how, you know, their relationship had developed since Perfect Chemistry, since this book takes place, I believe it's 2 years after Perfect Chemistry. I liked getting to see Alex and Brittany and see that they were still together and how Alex had really developed a lot, because he did develop quite a bit in Perfect Chemistry, coming from the gangbanger up to, you know, getting jumped out of the gang and trying to reinvent himself, going to college and, you know, trying to set a better life out for himself and for Brittany. And I just really love seeing that, and how, like, you know, when Carlos gets into trouble, like, Alex is no longer the full, like, let's go, you know, shoot him up or let's go beat this guy up. He's thinking rationally, and he gets Professor Westford in to help them with the whole Devlin issue, and how he really thinks more with his head than out of hot-headedness, and he's very level-headed. And I like how he's had such a change from the first book to this book, and I enjoyed that him and Brittany were still together. And when they broke up, that really pissed me off, because you went through all of this, like, character development to be somebody completely different from how he was, and he's really trying to shape up his life and change for the better, and then he decides he's not good enough for her because her parents will never accept him. I think he should have not broken up with her for that reason. Obviously, you did all this stuff for this girl that you love. You got yourself jumped out of the gang, and you've transferred up to the college she's going to, and you're trying to better yourself, and to think you're not worthy of her because you used to be in a gang and her parents don't approve. Who cares if her parents approve? You love her, she loves you. You've proved that you loved her because you've done all of these past things to get to her and prove that she is the one you want. Why would you just give that all up because her parents don't give your approval? I mean, her parents obviously didn't approve the first time you two were dating, and you still dated her anyways, so why does it matter now? I loved how the Westfords were very open about Carlos, even though they didn't know this kid at all. They knew he had a troubled past. They still opened up their home to him and treated him as one of their own, and that just, like, really made me extremely happy. And I loved that happened. Like, I wish that, like, hopefully when, like, I'm older and married and if I have children, I can do something like that, like, be able to take them in and, like, be their kind of temporary parent and, like, show them what it could be like, that there's still somebody out there that believes in you. And I just really loved it. Like, I love the Westfords. Like, I think if I had to pick my own fictional parents, I think I would want them as my fictional parents, because they, like, encourage their children no matter what, and I think I really love that. I love the epilogue in this book. I love how Simone always puts the little epilogues at the end, and they're set, like, 20 or so years later after the ending of the final chapter, and this one was set 26 years later. I loved how Professor Westford had such an impact on Carlos that he extends the same courtesy when he's older and he's grown up, he's married and he has his own children. He extends that same courtesy to somebody else and try to help them, you know, turn their life around and become for the better, like he did, because he had somebody do that for him, so he wants to reach out and help somebody else like that. I just really love that, and I thought it was really funny how the delinquent, he calls him, that he's taking in to help change his life for the better, happens to kind of be exactly like he was when he first met the Westfords. He sits him down in his office and he tells him his rules of the house, and the boy just sits there and he's like, well, what happens if I break one of your fucking rules? And it was funny because that's the exact same thing Carlos told to Mr. Westford when he was being told the rules of the house, and I loved it, and I think it's funny, and I kind of wish there was like a short story spin-off from this, but I think if there was, it would probably be kind of along the same lines as Carlos's story, so it's like, no. But I would kind of like to see it, because then Carlos will see how much a pain of the ass he was, because this kid is probably like almost exactly like Carlos is, if not worse. But all around, I really did love this story. The writing was a bit iffy, like I've already said, but the story and the characters are really what kept me coming back, and I love books like this that they don't have to be extremely perfectly and beautifully written, but if the storyline is good enough and the characters are fantastic enough, I will continue reading even though I'm not a big fan of the writing, because I can forget about the writing reading the story, because I love it. And I realize I haven't really said this in previous book talks because I always forget about it, and I figured to tell you my star ratings that I give it. I gave this one 3 stars. I also gave Perfect Chemistry 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars because, I mean, it's not a favorite. That's why it's not 5 stars. Writing kind of downgraded it to 3 stars, so I'd probably say 3.5 stars because I really did like it, and so far out of the 2 books I've read, this one's probably my favorite. However, I'm like 40 pages into Chain Reaction, which is the 3rd and final book in this series, and I'm quite enjoying it, so I'm excited to see how this all unfolds in the final book. Alright, well that is it for this book talk. If you have read this book, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments, and we can chat about certain things. Again, I'm really sorry about my ugly appearance. It's just I couldn't bring myself to do anything today. And that's about it. I will see you guys next time with a Top 5 Wednesday book talk or tag video. Until then, I'm Chrissy. Goodbye!